fetishes specifically, again, going back to this whole spectrum thing, it's like for some people it could be the smallest thing, like well manicured feet, even, that's a fetish. Fishnets are a fetish, to then like furries that you mentioned earlier. Again, there's just like such a broad spectrum, and so many people, you're right, are shamed for the things that they're interested in, or they're called weird. And it's like, what really even is normal when it comes to sex and sexuality? I'm Rachel, and you're listening to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. All right, guys, I don't mean to get too personal with you, but that's my jam. When I come across a product or something that I believe in, that I fall in love with, I have to share it with you guys. So that is why I am interrupting this episode today to tell you about Awkward Essentials, which is a company that created the drip stick, aka a cum sponge. Yes. Okay, so hear me out. When we decided that we were going to be a child-free family, and Danny went to get his vasectomy, that allowed us new opportunities to have some more fun in the bedroom, and specifically fun around finishing and what that would look like for him. So afterwards, when this would happen, I would be walking around and it would just be like gooey. I feel like I just left the gynecologist's office, like dripping. And no matter how much I wiped, how much I peed, it still just felt ugh to me. All right. Then my friend told me about the drip stick, and I have been using these for over a year now. I'm obsessed. So this is the original after sex sponge, and it is specifically for absorbing excess cum. It is super soft. It's a medical grade sponge, and it quickly soaks up. Like literally, I insert it, I spin it around a couple times, I take it out, I throw it away, boom, I'm done. And then no more drippy drip throughout the day. It is seriously, it is so good. Now, I realize this is not for everybody, but for those of you that this is for you, I highly recommend going to Awkward Essentials.com. You can find the link in the show here, and using code Rachel 91347. That's Rachel 91347. Use this code at checkout, and it's going to save you 10% on your purchase. Of course, DM me if you have any questions. I recommend getting the 20 pack or the 100 pack if you really, really like to have sex a lot. And you can also get a little trial size where they send you just a few to try out. They're super affordable too. So go check these out. Again, code is Rachel 91347, awkwardessentials.com. I am so excited, you guys. Another awesome, I usually say guest, but we have two guests today for the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. And it's the lovely ladies from the HoneyDew Me Podcast. How are you guys?
We're so good. We're super excited to be here.
I am so excited. No, as we were saying, it's been so long since I was a guest on your podcast, and this has been a year in the making, getting you guys on the podcast, for one reason or another. But
we're so happy. Our conversation last time was just so much fun, so we're so happy to come back on and have it again.
Yeah, and you guys are, this podcast that you have created for yourselves is just, it's so incredible. The guests that you have on, the topics that you have on. I'm a big fan of the podcast. I've listened to several of your episodes too, things that I haven't yet talked about on the podcast. And to say too, you've been such an inspiration for me as well in that aspect of the, things like, oh, I should have this conversation on my podcast, because it's so informational, the stuff that we do, and podcasts are such a great way for people to get this information.
Thank you so much. I think we're both really grateful to get to have those kinds of conversations, and it's the kind of conversations we've always had in our friendship. So to get to share those conversations with so many people is really fun.
Yeah. So speaking of your friendships, so you guys were friends before you started this podcast. Give us a little bit of just like a background history of how the HoneyDew Me podcast even was created.
Cass, you
you start it and then I chime in. So I'll let you start.
Okay. So Emma and I met in college. We actually met in a like psychology of sex class. That's where we became friends. And the first time we hung out, we went to a sex store and we turned on all the vibrators and then we went and had a beer. And that's just how our friendship really started. And we were just having these really fun conversations and just being so open and candid and sharing stuff that I think typically feels pretty embarrassing or like it needs to be private because it's almost shameful. And that was just never the case for us. And we originally wanted to go to different sex conventions because that's where our original interest stemmed from, was in kind of like the outskirts of sex and like these different types of sexual experiences that we weren't necessarily interested in for ourselves, but we're so interested in just like the idea of it. So we really wanted to go to like a furry convention and explore what good sex meant for people in these different communities. And then COVID hit and we did not want to go out into the community as much.
Yeah.
And so we're like, you know what? A podcast would be great. And that's kind of where it started.
No notes on that. Good job, Cass.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That was good. Yeah. And that, I mean, incredible. And yeah, thinking back from my own experience, I remember being when I went back to school to get my certificate in sex therapy and sex education, similar feeling of those people in that class. I was like, these are my people. These are the people that I can, I'm going out to lunch with in between classes, and we have to like remind ourselves of the conversations that were happening. The people around us are not used to having those conversations, kind of like minimizing yourselves a little bit in those settings. But it's so amazing to have that connection with somebody and to be able to go to a sex store together on your quote unquote like first date as friends. I think that's so cool.
If I had $1 for the amount of conversations Cass and I have had in public that are just so like off the wall that people around are like, my God, I don't know, I'd be a wealthy, wealthy woman. So there has just never been boundaries with what we could cover in our conversations. And like that type of friendship has been such a gift to both of us. And then we thought we were really funny and wanted to share that with the world as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I admire too, specifically about you guys, is that you come with this like just such genuine curiosity in your questions. And I remember that at being a guest on your show, just you there was like no fucks given. Like if you had a question, you're like, but wait, how does this work? Like there was no judgment about the questions that you're asking. You didn't come off as nervous to be asking the questions. And it's like everyone else is thinking it. We have to be the people that are like, okay, we're gonna tell you what it is, we're gonna ask the questions, so you don't have to, essentially.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite like times was when Cass and I used to sit together and write out questions. And this is when, we were too embarrassed to admit the things that we wanted to ask like on our own. So we'd sit together, but we would literally like, if it was a positions episode, we'd be like, okay, so they might tell us that we're going to be on our back, but then I'm going to be thinking about what my butt looks like in that position. And then we'd like write that question down. So these questions are coming from us like working ourselves through the information and like asking questions from our insecurities. And so I think we just start there.
Yeah. I think we've gotten steadily like more comfortable asking questions as well. In the beginning, I mean, from our perspective then, I don't think we were holding back, but from our perspective now, we were definitely holding back then.
Yeah.
And just not as comfortable asking like the really nitty gritty questions. And we've even gotten some comments, people of like, you're too giggly, from like our first episodes, that we were laughing too much while we were asking questions. But I think it's so important to capture that, because some of these questions do still make me a little nervous to ask, because it's super personal and it's super vulnerable. And everybody in our lives has told us that you shouldn't ask these kinds of questions and you shouldn't have this kind of information. So I think it's totally natural to feel nervous even now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's like, that's where this whole asking for a friend movement has come from, like my friend told me she's having this, and this,
Exactly. Yeah, we just make ourselves the friend.
I was just gonna say.
Asking for a friend. The
Exactly.
friend is me. So when you started this, or even now, what is the thoughts behind your family, friends? Did you get shit? Did you get weird looks when you wanted to start a sex podcast? What was that like?
Yeah, I think I was really nervous about what my family would say. They've always they've always known I've been interested in topics, taboo topics, I guess. I tell a story from like the very beginning that like I took a body book which shows all the parts of your body to like preschool because I just loved looking at the naked pictures of people. So I've just been a little pervert for a while. And I guess I was just most nervous that they would listen to these deeply personal stories that I had and I don't know, think I was icky or think like judge, you know, what I thought about myself or what I wanted to explore sexually.
Mhm.
But since I came to them with this idea, they've been so supportive and like so excited for me. And also they just choose not to listen to most episodes. And I love that because it's freeing for me. So it's been a mix of emotions.
I imagine that would be freeing to know that your family isn't listening.
Yeah.
Mine is and has been from the very beginning. My mom has been a huge supporter from the very beginning in the way that she has been a main listener. And my husband has also been amazing and so supportive. And I mean, he gets a lot of benefits because we have to try a lot of things. So I feel like it's been fun for our relationship.
Mhm.
Extended family also listens. Grandparents have listened, and that's not something that I wanted. But I mean, I'm putting it out there, so it
Yeah.
is what it is. It's definitely made for some uncomfortable conversations. There are members of my family that don't like that I do this. But I just try and explain that the reasons they think it's bad that I'm doing this are the reasons that I'm doing it in the first place. And that if they're so uncomfortable with this, then they also need the information that we are getting and sharing. So it's it's uncomfortable and it sucks at times, but I wouldn't change it. And I'm willing to be in those uncomfortable settings because I also don't want to feel uncomfortable around anybody when it comes to sex. So that's a big
Mhm.
learning area for me right now.
Yeah.
I actually have learned recently that some of my distant family listens and like some aunts and cousins like that I really only see once a year. Like, oh yeah, no, I tune in and I'm like, oh God, you only know
Amazing.
me as like Emma once a year and it's at Christmas. So, but then it's really interesting to see the kinds of conversations you have with people that you never would have imagined having because they will open up in some cases and be like, yeah, that was so funny. Like it was hard for me to listen to this, and this, but it got me thinking. And what do you think about? And then they start with their own anecdote and their own story to find a community in feeling like alone in their sexual experience. And sometimes it's awkward hearing it from your great aunt, but it's also really cool to have those conversations and to know that they trust me to not make them feel uncomfortable. Like that's the bigger gift is knowing that I'm not making people feel uncomfortable, which I
Mhm.
love. I hope.
I really like that you just said that because I've been thinking a lot about how I want to be as like a great aunt or a grandma and if I would want to be able to have these kinds of conversations and how I would, I don't know,
Mhm.
want to be. So I think that's also a big factor in these conversations that makes me want to engage in them no matter how much I don't like them
Mhm.
because it will benefit my entire family.
Yeah. And this work is it's so needed. It's so important that we continue to do this and that there are people like us out there that people can come to with their questions and whatnot, because I'd much rather go to a friend or somebody that I trust or somebody that I see as even a role model to ask my questions to, rather than even sometimes a doctor or a parent even, So yeah, I think it's great. And I am curious. So what would you guys say? So you came in I don't know if naive is the right word to use, but you came in with less
Feels
sexual
right.
experience than you had now. We'll say that. Um, so what would you guys say has been like the biggest transformations for you in we'll just say sexuality in general, whether with a partner or yourself? What were those key moments of things that you learned from having people on the podcast?
I think the biggest thing for me is embracing the awkwardness and the mess of it. I think I used to think that as I learned more, things would just come so easily, and I would be this like sex goddess who just knew exactly what to do in every single situation. And 2.5 years later, that is not the case. But what I Yeah, still not the sex goddess. But what I am able to do is embrace when something feels a little uncomfortable or when something goes wrong and laugh about it. And I feel like it's made those experiences so much more intimate. And Emma and I have talked a lot about this, making what we would have considered a bad sexual situation into actually like a really good sexual situation. And I would still consider it good sex because it still felt really good after we got over that weird noise that my vagina made or whatever it may be. It's like I can just keep moving forward and have those good experiences and not feel ashamed or embarrassed or, just scrap the entire experience as a loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would definitely go off of that as well with the awkwardness and also the importance and validity in conversation, which I feel like I had been so often denied in past relationships and past hookups. And through this experience and talking with people, just realizing how important it is to feel like you have a voice and you can have a conversation and feel validated, feel supported, feel safe in all of your sexual experiences, and take power in owning that you know what question you have and asking it in the moment. It felt more like this is awkward and I'm going to talk about it. And I have the confidence now to know that that's totally okay and right. I feel like that's been a huge transformation for me, is just having more confidence, knowing that all these little things that were going on inside of me that I felt like were out of place were completely human and absolutely correct.
Yeah. So it sounds like just normalizing a lot for the both of you and even broadening your picture of what sex or what pleasure can look like. And I love the point of you said just embracing the awkwardness because sex is so awkward. It's like your bodies are morphing together and the noises and the fluids and everything. And then sometimes maybe your dog or cat is like watching you while you're fucking. It just gets awkward, So that's what makes it so fun. If it wasn't weird or, loud or noisy or juicy at times, it's like, what's the fun in that?
I've always been a fan of like dry humping, for example, and I always thought it was super fun, but I stopped doing it after I was a teenager because then I'm like, well, it's fucking weird. Like it just seems weird. And like, I don't want to admit that I like that. So I didn't for like the first 4 years of my relationship until we brought it up on the podcast and we're talking about it. And other people were like, yeah, it's fucking great. And it's like, oh, I was allowed to like that. And it's like, it's so freeing in that way to let yourself like the things that you like, even if it seems a little weird or if somebody else would be like, ooh, like, okay.
And getting curious about things that pop up. Like if you learn a new trick or you learn about a new toy and initially you're like, that's probably not for me, but I'm going to give it a go. Like, I know I'm going to put it in my butt and just see how it feels. And it might not be for me, but it's okay to be curious about new experiences. And you should be able to talk about that with whoever you're having sex with.
It's okay for things to go wrong.
And be like, this isn't for us. And then tossing it. That's totally fine.
Yeah. Try anything once, essentially, as long as you feel safe, your partner feels safe, there's consent, try anything once. And yeah, the communication that happens before and during all of those things equally as important. And it's interesting because going back to the dry humping thing, it's when I think we had the same guest on when we talked about this, and the whole theme was like, bring back dry humping, right? Like, why do we stop doing this thing that feels so good? And I remember having this conversation with her and saying, like, I think why we stopped dry humping is like, maybe we dry humped before we were having penetrative sex because that was okay. Like that was within our limits at that time of our life. So then it's like, we almost see penetrative sex as an upgrade to dry humping when essentially more pleasure can maybe actually happen with the dry humping versus penetrative sex for so many people. And For so many, you know, when I work with couples that have been in long-term relationships, what they're craving the most is getting back to what their beginning of their relationship looked like. So when you stop making out, you know, holding hands, dry humping, like doing all of these things that you did in the beginning, of course you're going to fall into this routine and you're like, what happened? You know, like where's the couple that we used to be? And it's like, yeah, bringing these things like dry, you know, these things back in the picture, then you're going to feel that connectedness like you did from day one.
That's a really good point. And just made me think a lot about my relationship. So thank you.
No, that's an excellent point. It's, bringing back all of the things that we think, like you're saying, you're graduating out of, because now those are less than, not as important. So you're going to have the boring stuff, because that's what adults do. It's like, that's so lame. It's so lame.
Yeah.
We've stopped trying to make sex fun. And now it's just like, I don't know, checking off a box. But we did an episode with Lisa Finn, who's an amazing sex educator, talking about making sex fun and bringing back games and playfulness and all of that. And it's like, it makes such a difference, because it has become, I think, almost a little robotic at times for me, where it's just like doing the thing we always do. And there isn't a lot of play, which leads to not a lot of pleasure and not a lot of fun. And I think everything should be fun.
Yeah. If it's not a fuck yes, then it's a hell no. It's a good motto to live by when it comes to your sexuality, I think.
It really is.
If you're open to like sharing a little bit more personal question here, what things have you learned from the podcast that you didn't know before starting the podcast that you would enjoy, that you like now perhaps would be like your go-to thing, or things that you now incorporate in your life sexually?
I'd say mutual masturbation.
Ooh, yeah.
I would say that one would be huge in my partnered sex. I didn't think that I could ever be someone that could masturbate in front of a partner and have it be like one of the main sources of how I come. That sounded so intimate. Oh my God. How I finish or whatever.
How I come everywhere.
How I finish.
How you climax.
Yeah. Orgasm.
Sorry for that deep dive into my intimacy. Like literally when it first crossed our paths, like that topic, Cass and I both were like, fuck no, never. You could never catch me doing that. And I did that for 90% of the sex that I had with my last boyfriend. And it was fucking amazing. Like I didn't even realize that I'd enjoy seeing him do that as well. And it was, I don't know, it was cool. It was a great experience.
I remember we talked about that when on the episode that I was with you guys. And I remember you saying like, some people would see mutual masturbation as like, oh, no big deal. Whereas others, that's like a huge extreme, like way on the other end of something that is very intimate, very vulnerable, which is, it's so interesting, you know, for some people, even making out or oral sex, it's like, where do the sexual acts fall on your spectrum of sex from mild to wild? So I'm happy for you that mutual masturbation is working so well. That's so fun.
Well, because there's also ways, like, you know, when you are saying like, hell no, I would never do that. I think it's because you have one picture of how something is supposed to go. And it has to be, I'm staring dead in your eyes, going like to town on myself. And you're staring dead in my eyes, going to town on yourself.
Across the room.
Across the room with cameras. And everyone is
obviously.
But that's just not, you know, there's so many misbeliefs about certain positions or certain acts, and you think it only has to be the extreme when it can be so many other different variations, and you could like the smallest variation of it, but that could totally change your sex game.
For me, I think it's butt plugs. I wouldn't say like I don't use a butt plug every single day, but before the podcast I had like a very limited view of what sex was. I think it was coming from just like a very heteronormative, like small place. And then once we had a couple of conversations about butt stuff, it came quite easily to me.
You picked it up quite well.
I picked it up very, very quickly. I didn't need to do a lot of like the starter butt plugs. And I just really liked it. I feel like it just added something extra. I like a lot of pressure everywhere. Because I don't know, I get overstimulated easily. And so I think pressure from any angle I can get it is great. And so straight up my ass is another place that it felt good to have pressure. And yeah, I've just gotten a lot more comfortable with it. And that's been really fun to grant myself access to a whole other hole.
Whole other hole.
So
A whole new world.
Yeah, a whole new world. Sorry, Little Mermaid.
Yeah. She'll be all right. Yeah, interesting. So I'll, just because you guys got vulnerable, I feel like I should also get vulnerable so that I don't feel left out.
I was gonna ask you, so good.
Yeah, okay, good. Here we go. So many things, but most recently, I would say I went on a women's retreat in October, December of last year, and I learned how to properly spank someone or to properly be spanked. And that I'm not like, I'm a fucking baby when it comes to pain. So even just like looking at shibari, like rope tying or spanking or anything related to BDSM, I was like, no, like I was a hard no, like not for me. Even just like thinking about spanking, I talked about this in my spanking podcast, but have you ever been in a situation where you're in the middle of sex and then all of a sudden there's just this whack on your ass and you're like almost like startled and you're like, I'm not that for like, I would get so irritated when I would have sex with people and that would happen. I'm like, stop, like that, no. But when then I learned how to properly do it, I was all giddy coming home from this retreat and then teaching my husband, okay, this is technique 1, this is technique 2. Like I nerd out over this shit. But that has been something that has been really, really fun in our relationship and just like almost opened up this portal for us to experience more BDSM type stuff. Cause then, we learned spanking, but then we learned the techniques with a flogger and with a crop and with a paddle, and how different all of those sensations feel when you're, doing impact play. So that has been really fun. And he took quite well to learning the techniques that I taught him. And then we went through a couples coaching program and he got to learn again from our mentors. And yeah, that's been fun. Just yeah, like extending our like dom sub play more frequent around here. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I feel like Cass and I have gone through those examples in our own like sexcapades of an abrupt ass smack is just beyond irritating and can totally take you out of the moment. So it's awesome that you learned how to do it properly.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, it's so fun. So what were things in your episodes that you've had, because you've had people on talking about fisting and rimming and like some pretty, what I would categorize as extreme things, sex parties, all these things. What would you say was the most, well, how can I phrase this? Is there a topic that you had that came on that you were maybe like, this, we are not sure how this is going to go. This is something that maybe we feel is like, ugh. And then, well, yeah, I'll start with there, but then I'm really curious if after learning about that thing, you were like, oh, okay, I watched your reel that you had, the fisting lady did, where she was like, put your hand and like, you see how flex, and I was like, oh, okay, like it might not be that bad, So yeah, any episodes that come to mind to hit those?
I would say the fisting one for me, Dr. Liz opened up our worlds in the most wild way. They were amazing. And the way that they like just, I don't know, expressed their love for fisting just made it seem so, I guess, normal. And I don't mean that in like it was abnormal before I decided it was normal or anything like that. It just, the way that they were talking about it made it so normalized and just this other thing that lots of people do. And just because it's not, a primary sex act in my life doesn't mean that it's not a primary sex act in other people's lives. And it just, I don't know, it's still not something that I'm super like ready to try out myself, but it is something that just seems really normal to me now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more acceptable maybe in your list of things that you would want to engage in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say something that landed for me maybe our episode with Jet Setting Jasmine about fetishes. I think that was a really interesting conversation, exploring what a fetish is and how it plays into your sex and your sexuality. I thought that was really cool. We've also gone into different types of role play, and we've like felt that like consensual non-consent, like those types of role play scenarios, we were very unsure how that would land and how those conversations would go, just because that's not a conversation you often have in your day-to-day life. And it was really, really interesting to open up a space where people are typically judged and typically shut down pretty quickly because of what they're into, and then just learn more about what that means and how the play actually goes, and all the consent, all the information, all the safety precautions put into place with things that we're just not typically aware of. And it was really interesting for me.
Yeah, fetish role play, like those are common things that come up in coaching. And I think fetishes specifically, again, going back to this whole spectrum thing, it's like they're, for some people there, it could be the smallest thing, like well manicured feet, even, you know, that's a fetish. Fishnets are a fetish, to then like furries that you mentioned earlier, you know, again, there's just like such a broad spectrum, and so many people, you're right, are shamed for the things that they're interested in, or they're called weird. And it's like, what really even is normal when it comes to sex and sexuality? You know, like there's not a book out there that says like this is what you should, well, there's lots of books out there that says this is what you should be doing, but you know what I mean.
The Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. So I could say almost every single topic has kind of blown me away, but there's only a few of them that I was like, oh, I don't know where this is going to land. And like 9 times out of 10, they've been something that's like totally opened my mind, which is great.
Yeah. Which is just the perfect example of when, for anybody that's interested in learning about sexuality, if you go in with that open mind and you're brave enough to go in and look into the stuff that you're curious about, or even if it's a friend or a partner that's curious about this thing, like having that enough of that braveness to go in, it's like 9 times out of 10, you probably will either come out with a different perspective, or maybe not feel as much shame or just ick around that thing, you know, especially if you're getting good, accurate information about something.
Yeah. And you can just meet so many more people that way too. I mean, I feel like that's such a great philosophy to carry with you through just like meeting different groups of people. It's like, I don't know, you just have an open mind. You're curious about learning about people. And I don't know. I just think it really is a great mindset to lead with throughout life.
Yeah. So I'm curious, since you mentioned it, now that things are a little more open than they were back before you started the podcast, have you gone to any furry conventions or any sort of conventions like that?
We have not yet, but we will. We absolutely will. We have big plans. So that will be coming for HoneyDew Me.
Yes. So many. We have heard of so many different types of conventions from our guests, like from swinger things to what would you call the hunt? Is that
it was a fox hunt, was how our
fox hunt
guest described it to us.
There's swingers bars that are around our area. Like there is so many things that we want to try in this new world of ours.
That just thinking from my coaching perspective, that would be such a great resource that you guys could create, just like this list of all the conventions and that you've accumulated from having your show for 2.5 years, and make that as a downloadable thing for people that are entering this space or curious about this space. Because I'm sure most of these things have websites attached to them that you can then go and see the location and events and things like that, or a Facebook page, something like that. But I think that would be super cool. Yeah. What about products? Like any new toys that you learned about, or creams or lubricants or anything like that you've had guests come on, they've talked about, and you're like now either own or definitely are wanting to try?
I love a wand now. Like when we first started, I hadn't had a toy yet, and I got like a clit sucking one pretty quickly. And I loved it, and it's great. I still love it, but I've more recently gotten a wand and I'm obsessed with it. It's my favorite thing that I own, and it's huge, but it's stunning and I love her.
Microphone.
Exactly. I'm holding it right now.
Yeah, I know.
This isn't even a mic.
This is just now my ad for wands. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, if I were to pick a toy, it would be my sucker toy that Cass actually got me for my birthday. 2 years ago now, and it's the best thing. It's literally sits by my bed. I don't care who's here, unless it's my parents. It stays by my bed, and it is like a pride thing. I love it. It's amazing. But if I were to go with like something that is enhanced, like partnered play, it would be, we actually have like a Foria arousal oil that you can put on ya bits, and it just like helps stimulate and arouse like before you get going. I think things like that are so cool. Different types of lubes, just different sensations that you can play with like oil or water based. Those have just really enhanced just like sensations during sex. And I think that's really cool. It's messy, but it's fun if you have the time to like do cleanup.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say your bed restraints.
Yeah. I mean, they're cool for sure, but I wouldn't say that it has like changed my life. I love them. I've had some fun times with them. Yeah, they've been cool too. They stay under my bed as
Slowly
well.
climbing.
I know. Well, I forget. I've only used them probably 3 times. And I just keep them like underneath my bed. I just kind of tuck them in. But they've been pretty cool. It's just I have to be in a mood. These other things I can use more consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
how about you, Rachel?
Clit sucking toys, like 10 out of 10 must have.
Yeah.
Let's see. For me, it would be getting more into crystal toys. I've been on like the spiritual journey over the last 2 years, so that's been really cool, but I've only ever used vibrators before. And so then when these were presented to me as an option, I was like, that's dumb. Like it doesn't even vibrate.
You don't even move.
Yeah, I was like,
I love that.
Like, what do you mean? It just is glass or, crystal or whatever. So then, getting on my spiritual journey and stuff, I'm like, okay, obviously I need a rose quartz wand. That's like, I think the staple of what everybody starts with. And at first I would just masturbate with it next to me, like, because I'm like, it's still like, what do I do? And then I would graduate to like having it rest on my chest or like between my boobs and then like on my lower abdomen. And then I don't know what happened, but one day I was like, all right, it's going in, like we're doing it, we're and I was pleasantly surprised. I did like an intentional practice around it, like ritualistic spiritual thing. And I find myself, I would say now my vibrators versus those, it's like a 50-50 experience now. And my husband and I, we like to do around moons and stuff like sex magic practices and a lot of manifesting. And so we've now graduated to even using those toys together, which has been super cool. So I have the little wand, well, not little, they're wands, and then yoni eggs too. And now several types of crystals in those. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. We're the same person.
Thank you.
We are. That sounds super, super cool though.
Yeah. I'm so interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting to learn more about, I have a program around chakras and sexuality and starting to do more workshops around that too here in Michigan, in-person stuff. And it's just like learning about your sacral chakra, learning about all the chakras really as it relates to your sexuality, and then bringing in crystals, if you're doing some shadow work, like you're really trying to heal through some shit, black obsidian is good for that. The rose quartz. So if it's a day I'm trying to channel more self-love and forgiveness and channeling like my heart chakra stuff, just, love, happiness in general, that if I'm trying to stimulate more creativity or working on relationships and stuff, like I'll use my sacral wand, which is orange adventuring. And so it puts more intention behind the pleasure practice instead of like, okay, I'm going to get off in 30 seconds and be on with my day, which I also will say has been a big game changer for me since podcasting and getting more into like my coaching practices.
Yeah, it's like a great self-care to a different extent. Such like a sacred space you're saying that you're opening up. That's awesome. That's so cool. Yoni eggs are beautiful and they scare me.
So
I have one and I've never used it because I'm scared of it.
Oh, okay. I was the same. I had this yoni egg and I was like scared. I'm like, it's going to get lost in there. Like, I'm a sex educator. I know it is not going to get lost in there, but still had this belief.
I will figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I will bear down. My husband will get some tongs. Like, we'll figure it out. Totally kidding, but you can get them drilled. And so from Shock Rubs is who I order from. And if you get it drilled, they send you this little like beeswax string, super safe for your vulva. And so if it's drilled, then it has like that string attached to it. So I started using mine first with a drilled egg with the string, again, same for that purpose. And whether you're using it drilled or not, like, you're going to have the same experience. It's basically like having a tampon in, you know? But so I would say if it's not drilled, get it drilled, or get one that is drilled and start there, because it's been very interesting, like, to use those things. I did an episode on this, but at first I was just doing it around pleasure practices, but now it's like, if I'm doing my morning journaling, even, like, I'll pop one of my yoni eggs in, like, just do this. Like, I've heard of other people that do it like while they're cleaning around the house, because it also is strengthening your pelvic floor, you know, too. So, yeah, I know, it's like, the more pleasure that we can get throughout our days, like, why not? You know, it makes us better people.
Oh my gosh. Imagine it falling though. Like, if you're cleaning, dent your floor.
Just through.
Yeah.
Like,
downstairs neighbors.
Put it in, put on your underwear, put on your pants, like, be fully clothed. Maybe not start with a dress on, or like no underwear.
Yeah, I guess that would mean you're commando. So
that's what I was picturing though. We were both in the same spot.
Just doing.
It was like some. Yeah, I'm cleaning naked with a yoni,
obviously,
as I do anyways.
I mean, yeah, each their own. You can do it any ways that you want to, really, any ways that make you feel good.
That's incredible. Super cool.
Yes, so good. This has been such a fun conversation with you girls. I appreciate you coming on so much. Is there anything else that you were hoping to share, ask me, like anything else about your pod? Well, of course, we're going to ask you to share your Instagram and all that, but anything else before we wrap up here?
Yeah, these conversations are so fun. It's just fun to dive into what we learn, where our interests are, like how much we've all grown since we've last talked. And I just think that, like, that catch up time is really fun. And it's just great to have these conversations for ourselves and other people that listen. So thank you for having us on and like sharing this space and letting us just gab as we do.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. And so HoneyDew Me Podcast, where can people find you, follow you, listen to the podcast, all that good stuff?
You can listen basically anywhere that you listen to podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. I don't know any of the others, but I know that our network takes care of that. And you can find us at HoneyDew Me Podcast on Instagram, on TikTok. We're also on YouTube if you want to watch our full episodes, and that's just HoneyDew Me Podcast. And website is honeydewmepodcast.com if you want that, if you want a cute pink website to look at.
Awesome. Yeah. So basically anywhere that you are currently listening or watching this, you can also find their podcast there.
That would have been a really good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah. I like your long-winded way though. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you.
People need to hear the exact details, like, okay, yes, Google Podcasts, I have that. And not every podcast is on YouTube. I just got onto YouTube starting this year even. So that's been a whole fun adventure as well.
Awesome. Well, congrats on your YouTube launch.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you so much again for coming onto the podcast today. This was super, super fun. I can't wait to just continue following you guys, listening to your episodes. Yeah, and this was just so great.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it was so great to see you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you really fucking loved it, make sure to tag me on social media at @TheRachelMain. I'll see you next week.